So I think that we are just now getting to the point of the cycle where the prime books are going to be impacted. And so, again, I think even Realtor, they have their vested interest, right? Basically said there's three ways that we can improve affordability. Rates have to go down below three. Prices would have to correct by 35%, or wages would have to go up by 50%. That's from the industry show. And so, and I even think, because I remember 2010 very well, Ken, you probably do as it was like this one year we got a pause on the crisis because people did go into refi. That's what they did. It was like a mini refi boom. But what you're seeing right now is the Fed, in its last survey of consumer expectations, mortgage refinance rejection rates were over 43%, the highest since they started tracking. We hit a similar number last February, but that's massive. And so people that you would hope would be able to unlock that equity, a lot of them won't be able to, because those student loans that weren't reporting to credit when they started, and there's still millions of them not reporting, they took prime borrowers down 200 points in some cases. And so, unfortunately, I think we will probably have a little boomlet like you're talking about if we keep seeing rates go down from here. But it's not going to be as effective as I think many believe, the same way that 2010 was not either, because people just could no longer access that credit. They basically could no longer qualify.
I'm sure those numbers are accurate. I want to, if I could, just if we take it from Wall Street down to Main Street, I'm a simple guy. So like if I have a listing and there's 15 cars out front, and the price is blowing above the listing price, typically there's either a shortage, a lot more demand of buyers for why? Because of the low mortgage, let's say, interest rates, or maybe there's not enough homes. So I look at the other way too, right? So we're starting to see this normalization, and I actually think that's what this is. I think that the sellers have been in the driver's seat for a long time, and we saw a 40% increase after COVID, like from 2020 to 2022 in the home prices. Like they went from 300 to 400 just like that. I was like, what? I guess so. If you didn't have to do anything, and your home went up on average $100,000. So we have a long way to fall. And you're right. Even if it goes down 40%, it just goes back to what it was in 2020. But I think, I look at it from the Main Street, which you're right. There's fallout, there's Airbnb, there's all that stuff. We're seeing all that stuff. It's gobbled up. But really, I think one of the fundamental issues of the low MLS numbers is that the majority of the country is sitting at 4% and under rates. They're just sitting there, and there's zero motivation. If you have a $400,000 or $500,000 house at 3%, you can't rent, you can't trade out, you can't do anything, because whatever you do is going to be more money to you. And so I think that's what they're trying to go after. In 2006, what you mentioned, federal funds rate was 0. I mean, that's a huge difference. Now it's 3.5, let's say. I think we have this. And what I watch, I actually was buying in 2005, 2006, and it popped, and all of a sudden, whatever I bought during that period of time was worth a lot less, and so I felt the pain during that time. But so I look at the Main Street, and I just don't see personally what I think. I like our mutual friend George Gammon's quote. He's like, the cure for high prices is high prices. And so you could be right in this situation where, we kind of started there with the affordability issue. People cannot afford a $400,000+ home at 6.5%. They just can't. There's being in the rental business, there's almost $1,000+ more on the mortgage than the rent Rents, I think, around 1,700 average for the country, and mortgages are 27, let's say. So
Right.
it's a huge gap, and it's forcing people into the rental market at the
Right.
moment.
I agree with you on the kind of the lock-in effect. I think we just got to the point where we're about the same over 6 as we are under 3, but my dad is one of these seniors, and he can't buy a like home. Like,
No.
he's going to lose his equity if he moves. But the thing that I'm starting to see, and I use a tool, they don't sponsor me, but it's called Property Radar, where you can go in and they track, divorce, death, and things like tax liens, owner liens. And what you're seeing in these markets is the rate of deaths is accelerating, and so I think that we're actually going to get a lot of those under 3 homes to market, unfortunately, that way, because as I mentioned, the kids just can't afford these homes. They can't pay the property taxes or insurance. In many cases, I travel all over the country, and I always like to look at the local news when I'm in a city so I can kind of understand what's going on. And there, every single time it's somebody at a city council meeting, complaining about their property taxes, that it feels like a mortgage. And then the same with, insurance has, one of my large servicers told me, just looking at their book, number 3 servicer in the country, that insurance has gone up by 50% since 2020. And so what I'm seeing is these escrow notices go out that are 2 and 3, like double the payment. It's insane. And so I think that, what you're going to have is you're going to have people that sort of age out, and you're going to get that inventory there. That's how you're going to get out from under that lock-in effect. And then we're starting to see distress elevated where there is actually no choice. And those guardrails on that FHA program are massive. Like, what was happening there was just absolutely unbelievable. And so it's going to kick this stuff loose. Now, again, the government could get involved. Like, if we start to see foreclosures increase, the state AGs might get involved to slow that down. But I think basically, to George's point and what you repeated, the cure for high prices is high prices. And if you just look at household median income, I mean, we are so out of whack. I just don't see who's coming to buy. And with the builders undercutting, I mean, we haven't had prices for 3 months with the builders. We know that they were below 400, the last one they reported, and we know that they are reporting in their earnings that they're upping their incentives. But you've now had historically one time in the past, since 1999, where new home prices more or less expensive than existing home prices. And we've now had a full year of that. And that's how distorted the market is. And so I just think the affordability is going to, it's going to crush it. And I just don't see, unless we do see wages increase, because I don't think rates are going to do it personally.